and that'll upset everything.
Anything could really trigger this thing off, Dave. I think we're just sort of on a hair trigger, and something big's going to happen. I just don't know when. Anything else you want to say before we let you go?
Oh, just real quick, they were reporting today about how the increased borrowing costs in Ireland is one of the highest levels since, I think, the end of World War II. And then they start to unravel there. I agree with everything Bob's saying there. My view on the quantitative easing, a lot of it, as I see it, is the Federal Reserve has actually been buying public debt, securities, from Treasury, and taking them off the market to prevent them from collapsing from having no other buyers. And so what they've really been doing is engaging in a lot of ineffective, unannounced, as I see it, debt forgiveness, in effect, that's unannounced.
But of course, what they're doing, of course, Dave, is they're creating new money they're really monetizing the debt, and that's just what the Weimar Republic.
The way most people think, you're not spending a lot of excess capital into circulation. They're forgiving a lot of debt by buying debt and then taking it off the market so it doesn't have to be paid, and it's actually contracting the money supply, I fear. I think it could cause a deflationary depression at least 2-3 years down the road if they don't have the inflation in the meantime.
We may probably have inflation and then deflation. Thanks very much. I think you're right on. Thanks very much. Let's go to Andrew calling from Aptos, and then we'll get to Rick calling from Monterey. But, hi, Andrew. Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I do. Thanks for taking the call. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I have a question for Bob. Couple of part question maybe, and I'll take the answer on the air. First part is something to this new tax law that they just pushed through has some kind of requirement that broker bullion, broker coin dealers have to submit some sort of 1099 form themselves or something. I'd like you to just talk about that, and then secondly, how does that impact us? For example, I'm in my 60s. I'm not retired yet, and I have about 90% of everything in bullion. And thirdly, if you could just go through a scenario, like when do you start selling this? And anyway, that's it. Thank you
okay, fine. Bob, did you get the questions? What about this form that the coin dealers are going to have to turn in? And of course, when do you start selling your precious metals? The telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. So, how would you answer Andrew calling?
Well, first of all, I think that there is a good chance, if we can clear a good part of Congress, that will be defeated. There will be a bill. In fact, there are two bills, and that'll be defeated prior to the end of next year when it's supposed to go into operation. We won't know what kind of a chance we stand until after the election's over, when I can better answer that. As far as when do we sell our gold and silver bullion, maybe never. It all depends on how things work out. You may end up being one of the richest people around. And so, again, we don't know whether they'll issue a new currency, use the old currency, have no currency. I mean, this whole thing is up in the air. One thing that you do know is that when you have gold and silver bullion, you have the safest place to be. There's no other place that you can be that's safer. And that's why they're going up. That's why commodities are going up. And the poor souls who are not involved in getting into those areas are in the stock market. They're still in real estate. They're in bonds. And they're going to lose it all. It's pretty simple. I mean, just look at history. In every period, somewhat similar to the one we're going through. And that's what's going to happen. What was the middle question?
Oh, the second one was, there are two questions certainly about, first of all, about the forms that the tax people are going to have, the coin dealers are going to have to send in. And the second one, when do you sell your gold and silver? You answer them both. And I certainly agree with your answers. Let's go to Rick from Monterey. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And there was one other thing. People can legally buy bullion and move it out of the country, or buy bullion with people who move it out of the country. And there's places in Switzerland and in New Jersey and Guernsey and even in Canada, and you can put your bullion there. And so that's open to people who want to do that sort of thing.
All right, well, let's go to Rick. Hi, Rick, do you have a question or comment?
Hi, gentlemen. Maybe a little of both. First thing, I would tell Andrew, if 90% of his retirement is in bullion, Andrew, buy a shovel. Second of all, why is it that only 50% of us get it, that this thing is, on the verge of collapse? And, I look at it in a biblical context that people are deceived. It's never been more clear to me than right now. I'm sitting at lunch today listening to a group of, older gentlemen denigrate the Tea Parties and denigrate. And I'm saying that I'm a retired baggage handler, no formal education. How come I get it? And how come this other entire maybe 50% of our nation, they've just got the rose-colored glasses on or their heads are in the sand? And then the other question is, wanted to stand up and ask these four guys, so you actually want to live under a Marxist, communist rule, do you? I mean, I've got one of the most wonderful sets of in-laws and their family members, a lot of military, wonderful, wonderful, honest, hardworking people who disagree with everything the Democrats stand for right now, but they can't think of voting any other way because it's all they've ever done. And not that the Republicans are any better, but right now the emergency is get the Democrats out of control. So it's really more of a comment. But, is it just the biblical idea that people are just deceived, would you think?
All right, Bob, how would you answer Tom?
His percentages are outsized. I think that really 5% of the people truly know what's going on. Of the total amount of people, 15% either know what's totally going on or have an idea. And the rest of them are in a deep freeze. They don't have a clue. And every day we make new incursions with the public through talk radio and the Internet, and that's great. And we are reaching people all over the world, and our sense of possibility of success gets better and better each day. We don't need everybody. I mean, revolutions are fought, whether they're nonviolent or violent, by 5 to 10% of the people in the population. So we got enough people, and we don't need everybody. It would be nice if everybody would and could understand and wanted to, but you're never going to have that happen.
But I think there is a spiritual blindness. I think that certainly Rick alluded to that. Maybe there's a spiritual blindness. I really think there is a spiritual blindness. The other side controls their minds. They control the media. They control what the American people think. Our job is to break that. And don't get discouraged. Just ask questions. Don't lecture people. Ask them questions. Try to get them to think. And that's the best means of reaching people that I've found. And once you get them to think, and maybe they'll come up with a stupid answer, try to ask them another question. Don't demean their intelligence. Just try to get them to think. And once they do, just say, how would you feel if the whole system collapsed and you lost everything you've worked your whole life for? This has happened in other countries. Happened in Zimbabwe, and we brought that government to power. Why would we have brought that corrupt government to power in Zimbabwe and kept them there? It's okay, fine. Well, that's not Bob. Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster, and we hope you enjoy our programs. He will be our guest at 4 hours or 3 hours from now on the evening program, which of course you can get on RadioLiberty.com on shortwave and on stations across America.